Down to business.
When he drinks, he thinks.
That's the nectar of the gods, baby.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the number one liquid-fueled, liquid, lubricated show on the interwebs. This is the Whiskey Musings Broadcast. And if you're on the audio portion, you might have missed a little tiny bit of the intro. Only just because I guess it took a little while for it to connect up. It's kind of weird. Anyway, looks like we have the normal pack of, ultra, mega, deplorable, non-deprogrammed miscreants tonight. I try every time. 3 Chevy puts out this serious list of things, and I try to mimic it, and I just can never do it. I really, what I should do is, as soon as he puts it up there, I should grab it and copy and paste it and put it somewhere. Anyway, all right. Thank you all for joining. I do appreciate it. As always, I enjoy every single one of you. I love all my Whiskey Warrior P1s, and of course, anybody who is joining for their first time, welcome. Hopefully you become a regular and turn yourself into a Whiskey Warrior P1. That would be fantastic. Of course, that's just all I do is I just try to make the show for everyone entertaining and informative for everyone. And of course, if you decide to hang out, that is great. Let me see. I've got let's see. Who do we have here? I've seen Becky and Tommy, and over on Facebook, I've seen Pekarik, Outlaw Dogs, Buddy, 3 Chevy. I already mentioned him. Bam. Let's see who else. Let's see. Naraz. And I'm trying to think. Mama 5 Kitties. Can't forget her. Oh my gosh, that would be absolutely horrible. Let me see who else. Who else? I think that, for the most part, is pretty much it that I've seen so far. If I missed you, I apologize. But there you go. So, thank you all for coming. Tonight, I've got just a slew of stuff. In fact, I'm probably even not going to get to everything. I'm going to try and pick and choose and get things in order to make things set up properly. But before I do that, of course, I have to do this. Oh, wait, before I do this, I have to tell you what I'm drinking. I'm drinking Jameson Black Barrel is what I've got tonight. And I finished off my 4 Roses. There was only a couple swallows left in the bottle, so I finished that off before I came live. So what's in my glass in the Lucky Shot USA We the People glass tonight is the Black Barrel, the Jameson Black Barrel. So I already started drinking a little early. I'm a little buzzed. Anyway, so there you go. All right. Let's get on to the Institute on the Constitution. The Institute on the Constitution was established in 2004 as a 501c3 nonprofit with one singular mission: to restore the constitutional republic through grassroots education. All courses and materials are developed using primary source documents and taught from the American view of law and government as defined in the Declaration of Independence in the following 3 key points. 1, there is a God. 2, our rights come from him. And 3, the purpose of civil government is to secure and protect our God-given rights. The IOTC offers the opportunity to educate yourself on our most precious founding document, the Constitution of the United States. They also provide tools to educate your community and get involved with local government. Start by taking their free U.S. Constitution course and go from there. Use my affiliate link, iotc.whiskeymusings.online, to sign up. And while you are there, take a moment to look through their other course material and information. My affiliate link, once again, is iotc www.whiskeymusings.online to get great content to learn about our historical founding and support the show in the process. That's iotc.whiskeymusings.online. Or if you would just like to purchase this fabulous Saddleback, a leather-bound U.S. Constitution, you can go to constitution.whiskeymusings.online. Now check this out. This has got a 1/8 of an inch of Saddleback leather. The internal pages are tear-resistant, water-resistant, and check out this binding. It goes all the way through the leather and everything else. They have a 100-year warranty against a problem with materials and workmanship. If this thing falls apart or tears or does something untoward, you can send it to the manufacturer and they will replace it or fix it for free. To get one of these, go to constitution.whiskeymusings.online. This is a great stocking stuffer. I'm telling you, folks, a great stocking stuffer for both your liberal friends as well as your conservative friends. Your conservative friends will love it. Your liberal friends will probably try and destroy it. I would love to get a video of that. That would be awesome to see them try and tear this thing apart. That would be fantastic. Go to constitution.whiskeymusings.online and get your copy today. And of course, go to the IOTC website and check them out today. Oh, I can't forget, it is buddy tested, buddy approved, Billy tasted, Billy approved, and my youngest whiskey warrior has verified that the information contained within is accurate by passing his civics badge in Scouts. So go to constitution.whiskeymusings.online to get that today. It is fantastic. I have, obviously I have my copy, and you guys should too, because that is a fantastic document that is part of our founding. Speaking of another document that's part of our founding, tonight's question of the week has to deal with the Mayflower Compact, and I'm excited to bring that to you as well. But first, before we get into that, we of course have to go to one of the favorite segments of this show, the On This Day in American History. And for On This Day in American History, we read from the American Patriots Almanac, which is written by William J. Bennett and John T.E. Cribb. This is a fantastic book for you to pick up for over the holidays. Look at this. This thing is chock full of just little factoids and information about our historical founding. And yes, it is historical. The reason being is because there is no other country on the face of this earth that is like America in today's day and age. You know, other countries have tried constitutions and it just has not taken. And we are unique. We are the bastion of freedom in the world. As Ronald Reagan once said, if we lose it here, that will be the last place for freedom on this earth. All right, let's talk about some of our Purple Mountain Majesties. We're going to be talking about mountains tonight for the December 2nd setup here. On December 2nd, 1980, Congress created the world's largest continuously protected area when it expanded Denali National Park and Preserve in Alaska to more than 6 million acres. That's larger than the state of New Hampshire by itself. The park's centerpiece is Mount McKinley at 20,320 feet, the highest peak in North America. The mountain is also known as Denali, which in the language of the Athabascan, oh God, I'm going to mess that up, Indians, means the high one. Now, I've actually seen, just digress here real quick, I've actually seen Denali. Denali is impressive, I'm telling you. All right. So here's some other famous U.S. peaks. Mount Whitney, California, at 14,494 is the highest peak in the lower 48 states. Mount Elbert, Colorado, at 14,433 feet is the highest peak in the U.S. Rockies. Mount Rainier in my state here of Washington at 14,410 is the highest peak in the Cascades, and it's covered with glaciers. Believe me, that thing is always white. Always white. Doesn't matter how hot it gets. It's always white. Pikes Peak, Colorado, 14,110 feet, inspired Catherine Lee Bates to pen America the Beautiful. Mauna Kea in Hawaii at 13,796 is the world's tallest mountain at 33,476 feet from the base on the ocean floor to the peak. Let's see. Grand Teton, Wyoming at 13,770 is one of America's most jagged soaring peaks. Mauna Loa, Hawaii at 13,677 above sea level is the world's largest volcano. Mount St. Helens, also in my state here of Washington, used to be taller than this, I'm going to tell you, up until May 18th, 1980. But at 8,364 feet, she unfortunately killed 57 in the May 18th, 1980 eruption. Mount Mitchell in North Carolina is at 6,684 feet, is the highest peak east of the Mississippi. Clingman's Dome, Tennessee and North Carolina, spans across the state lines. At 6,643 feet is the highest peak in the Great Smoky Mountains. Mount Washington, New Hampshire at 6,288 feet is the highest peak in New England, famous for 200-mile-an-hour winds. Yeah, mile an hour. Okay. Mount Rushmore, South Dakota, at 5,725 feet, is the site of Gutzon Borglum's giant sculpture of the four presidents. I haven't seen that in my lifetime. It's on my bucket list to go see when I get the opportunity. I can tell you, though, if I ended up going to, doing this, I have plans I've told you about where I would love to do a year-long tour called Whiskey on the Road, and that would definitely be one of the stops. Mount Marcy, New York, at 5,344 is the highest peak in the Adirondacks. Mount Katahdin, Maine, I think, M-E, Maine, at 5,268 is the northern terminus of the Appalachian Trail. And Springer Mountain in Georgia at 3,782 is the southern terminus of the Appalachian Trail. So we've been talking about mountains, and that is today's On This Day in American History from the American Patriots Almanac. A lot of those nice little tidbits, little factoids. Like I said, it's completely chock full. It might be a good for the patriot and America lover in your life. Might be a good book for you to buy for Christmas. You can go and get it where books are sold. All right. So we had the great debate. The great debate happened. Actually, it wasn't really the great debate, although it was really funny. I mean, well, I found it funny, mainly just because of the fact that all the leftists thought that that Gavin Newsom just tore Ron DeSantis a new bunghole. Nope, he didn't. I'm just telling you right now, he didn't. In my personal opinion, he actually lost. Now, there were a couple times, I'll admit, there were a couple things that Gavin hit Ron with that made Ron look a little uncomfortable, and that caused some challenges, but realistically, I think overall it went Ron's way. Now, Ron DeSantis went and actually confronted Newsom with a couple of pictures. He had a couple of props. And, real quick before I get too far. Hey, Coco. Coco Dominky says she was in Oregon when Mount St. Helens erupted. I was actually in Oregon myself, and you should go back and check out my Mount St. Helens anniversary episode where I tell the story of me being experiencing that at the age that I was. But anyway, to get back to Ron DeSantis, yes. As Bam says, you couldn't beat the poop map. Yeah, that's true. You couldn't beat the poop map. Well, it wasn't just the poop map. It was also a picture of a sexually explicit children's book after Gavin tried to hit him up about, quote, banning books, which, by the way, I attacked. I don't attack anybody, but I responded to a bunch of droogs and idiots over on X that kept saying that Ron DeSantis has banned books. Folks, banning a book means that you cannot get it anywhere within the state. All Ron DeSantis did is removed them from school libraries. That's it. Okay? That's it. He didn't ban them. You could still go down to the damn bookstore and buy the freaking sexually explicit book if you want, the cartoon book. There's no reason why you can sit here. They use the term banning because they want to inspire the emotional response from people like, oh my gosh, banning is bad. Yeah, well, if you listen to any of the videos of the parents who were reading some of the contents from these books across the country, it's going to be, sorry, I got distracted. Buddy said whiskey likes that Jameson whiskey. Watch out. Yes, I do. I do like it. But anyway, Ron, of course, pointed this out and like whipped out the imagery and had it blocked out. It was just a mess. As far as that goes. And there was actually one point too where DeSantis mispronounced. Now, I don't know if it was on purpose, but he mispronounced Kamala Harris's name. And that, of course, pissed off Gavin Newsom. But, the funny thing about it is apparently both of the candidates felt that they were in good positions, okay, because of the fact that toward the end of the debate, Sean Hannity said, hey, I'm willing to carry this over into my regularly scheduled show if you guys want to continue. And both of them responded in the affirmative. They wanted to continue. Well, Sean, of course, was like, okay, well, I guess we're going to go ahead and continue. This is the wonderful thing about this live TV and stuff like that. We're going to go ahead and just carry the debate over. Well, he said, okay, we're going to go to a commercial break. And then when we come back, we'll continue the debate. Unfortunately, something happened between the ending of the debate and the ending of the commercial break. And when they came back, they had to announce that, the candidates had prior engagements, and so we're not gonna do it. Even though both of those candidates, who honestly should have known their freaking schedules, went ahead and said that they were going to. Well, little bit of inside baseball leaked, and apparently, according to NBC News, and this isn't the only outlet, by the way, that brought this out. Ignore the chocolate. Okay, there was an ad. I paused. But anyway. Sparks apparently flew behind the scenes at the Ron DeSantis and Gavin Newsom debate. While the candidates said that they were happy to keep debating for longer than 90 minutes, an intervention from, guess who? The California governor's wife went ahead and put a stop to it. Apparently, she got mad. Reports are that she got mad because of the fact that some of the rules supposedly were broken. Now, both sides, honestly, had, quote unquote, broken the rules or complained about broken rules. But the reality of it is that she was the one that literally said, "We're done," and pulled Gavin off stage. That's what the reports are. Now, I don't know. Maybe she did, maybe she didn't. I have no idea. But it really is kind of interesting that she pretty much told them, okay, we're finished, we're done. And so, of course, rampant things went online, and I, of course, had to throw my personal 2 cents in, which is essentially, his wife was not happy with the way her husband was performing, and so she went ahead and, cried, took her ball, and went home. Or took her husband and went home. Well, took his 2 balls and went home. How does that work? Anyway, so yeah, Gavin Newsom apparently said, okay, that's it. That their team went ahead and took him off stage. So if you ask me, that is a pretty damn good indicator. That's a pretty damn good indicator that she at least was unhappy with Gavin's performance against Ron DeSantis, and Ron DeSantis came out on top. Now, does this debate actually do anything? There's a lot of question for the whole conversation about what was the purpose of this? And I honestly think that this is kind of a precursor, to be open and, straight with you, because even though Gavin was talking about how he was not going to take Biden's place, he's supporting Biden, Gavin is still running a shadow campaign. And that was kind of the purpose of this debate. Now, if it were me and I was Ron DeSantis, I probably wouldn't have agreed to it. I think it was a step down for Ron. I think Ron pretty much was like, hey, why would I debate somebody who's not even running for any kind of an office, whether it's president or anything else? I mean, he's not even running for governor. He already successfully navigated that. So, yeah, I just don't see where Ron had a positive outcome other than the fact that he was able to go in and beat up DeSantis beat up Gavin Newsom a little bit about how crappy Gavin Newsom is. Now, there was one particular part within the debate that a lot of people think that Gavin Newsom won, and that was where he was talking about the migration of people from California to Florida. And Gavin Newsom, of course, said that there were more people moving from Florida to California. And Ron DeSantis' response, which there was a lot of question as to where the hell he was going with it at first, but he started telling a story of a man that he had met. And that man went ahead and was telling him about how Florida was, governed better, had lower taxes, so on and so forth. And then he identified at the very end that man was none other than Gavin Newsom's father-in-law. Now, I've had a couple people on X who have said, yeah, there's, it's a per capita basis. It's a per capita thing, there's da, 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 da. Well, yeah, okay, fine. Per capita, whatever. That's just another way of modifying numbers to basically show different things. But the reality of it is, when you look at the actual numbers of people who have been migrating from California to Florida, that is almost double what people have been migrating from Florida back to California. And so, yes, the fact of the matter is more people are leaving California for Florida. They're actually leaving California for a lot of other states, but we're only looking at, Florida, the top ranked state, according to the information that I found, was going from California to Texas. They also went to neighboring Nevada. And then in third, they went to Florida. So, again, all Gavin was doing throughout the whole thing is he was just making up numbers, making up crap, all that time. And again, the question that I have is, I mean, other than just getting the experience, there really wasn't any political reason to do this because, again, DeSantis, who's running, depending upon which poll you look at in terms of the Republican primaries, he's either running second or third. And you have, Trump way out ahead, 30, 40 points in some polls. And so the chances of DeSantis actually getting into the office, which is something that, Gavin Newsom used at the very end for his final thought. He did say that, hey, neither one of us is actually going to be, the nominee in 2024 anyway, which he's correct in that, unless, of course, Biden keels over and the Democrats need to pull him from the bullpen because realistically, they really don't have anybody on tap. To be honest with you, there's just, so anyway, I don't know. It's going to be very interesting as we head into Iowa. There's some that are saying that, DeSantis, if DeSantis can win Iowa, he might have an opportunity to at least catch Trump. I don't know if he's even going to win Iowa. Again, this debate was it was a one-off, and I don't even really understand politically why Ron DeSantis would agree to it. But then again, I didn't understand Ron DeSantis' reason for jumping into the race anyway. I personally think he could have waited until 2028 and he would have ran away with the entire freaking thing in 2028, after Trump had his shot and finished out his term as president. So anyway, but now we have to kind of turn our attention. So let me, debate's over. It was kind of funny at the time and things like that. But yeah, anyway, so now we have to kind of turn our attention to, of course, the real thing that's going on now. I don't know if anybody's noticed, but there's a renewed interest in January 6th. Not that the left has ever let the damn things go, because I've been telling them over and over again on X, just because I like to needle them, that January 6th was not an insurrection. It was nowhere near an insurrection. And, they kept saying like Marjorie Taylor Greene should be kicked out and all of this other stuff, over and over and over again about all the, like, Jim Jordan should be kicked out because of January 6th and all these other people that should be kicked out, but something came out here recently, and a couple of things did. And this, I got to tell you, it's mistakes like this. If they weren't intentional, one of them actually is intentional, by the way. But if mistakes like this keep going, this is why we have, conspiracy theories and alternate universes of thought and so on and so forth, because of crap like this. Now, apparently there was a House Republican who was looking into the January 6th committee tapes. Now, this is not the tapes that were released by Mike Johnson. Johnson released the raw footage, which some people are now reporting that that some of the footage is being able to be used to, like, track down others to, put them into legal trouble because of January 6th. But here, the actual committee tapes that were used to splice together that television, fiasco that they tried to pawn off on everybody, are missing, according to a House Republican. The House Republican is Representative Barry Loudermilk from Georgia, and he chairs the House Administration Oversight Subcommittee that is currently investigating the security lapses connected to the Capitol riot and potential ramifications for upcoming criminal trials. And he's trying to understand why there was a disappearance of the video evidence. He says all of the videotapes of all depositions are gone. He told Just the News, No Noise television show on Thursday night. We found out early in this investigation when I received a call from someone who was looking for information off one of the videotapes. We started searching and we had none. I wrote a letter to Benny Thompson asking for them, and he confirmed that they did not preserve those tapes. He didn't feel that they had to. All right, a little more on this. I want to go ahead and let you know. You know, tonight you're listening to me. Tomorrow, you should listen to True Grit Roots Network. Check out this lineup for tomorrow. This is our Sunday morning or Sunday all day lineup. Look at this. We have Lady A's. Yes, Lady A's Gumbo and Gospel. That is the real Lady A, okay? The real Lady A, not Lady Antebellum, but the real blues artist known as Lady A. We have, after that, we have Oogie's Sunday Groove. That is my partner and friend. He does a great lineup for Sunday music to ease you into your Sunday. Excuse me, cholera. Then we have, after that, we have Queens of the Blues, where Gina Coleman goes through and does a fantastic job to focus on the women of the blues. Behind her is Roots and Fruits. That is Vinnie Marini's focus on the roots of blues and a lot of the blues artists of the past and some in the present that are creating blues of today. And then, of course, we have replays of King Street Blues, and which is Holly Harris's show, and Blues Therapy Radio, which is Ray Hansen's show. And then we have a replay of Soul of the Blues, which is Ray Brown's show. So we have 3 replays starting at 4, and then, of course, brand new shows, the first 4 shows. Go and check it out on Sunday on TGRN, True Grit Roots Network out of Austin, Texas. We are focused on the blues. It is a fantastic radio station, I'm telling you. Yes, I am a part owner in it, so you'd be doing me and my partner a favor for listening in, but we're planning on we've got a couple new folks that are coming on, just working on getting a fantastic lineup just for you. Go to tgrn.net and check us out. You can also check us out on Live 365 and listen to us there. Go and check us out, tgrn.net, Austin, Texas. And we thank you for that. We do appreciate that. All right. So again, getting back to the fact that the depositions are gone, apparently the video depositions, according to Mr. Loudermilk, well, that plays quite well for somebody in particular. And what that does is that plays right into Cassidy Hutchinson's hands. So there was a memo that came out. Do you remember Cassidy Hutchinson? You know, she's the one that was saying, you know, talking about how Trump, you know, tried to get in the car, and once he got into the beast, he tried to grab the wheel, because he was refused to go to the Capitol building, et cetera, all of that crap, which is a total lie. Dan Bongino debunked it completely, because the beast, as it's known by the press corps, is the limo, and the SUVs were what was used after his speech for him to get into. But anyway, Cassidy Hutchinson apparently did a revision to the deposition and transcribed interview that she gave to the January 6th committee. And normally these things are just to fix typographical errors. Well, apparently Cassidy Hutchinson made major changes to her testimony, to the point where some legal experts are actually even questioning whether or not this is like entirely new testimony, that it can't be used in the legal sense. It can't be used as a revision of the original testimony. For an example, the aforementioned beast that I talked about, where she claimed that the beast was used and that, Donald Trump was in the beast at the time, she actually changed her testimony to something other than that. She actually changed it to SUV. And so this is basically 3 months after she had testified, she submitted all of these changes. And so, it's some legal experts who have looked at the documents and everything else are going, you know what, this is actually entire new testimony. And there's questions as to whether or not she might have perjured herself during the depositions if she's, putting in these questions or these corrections, I should say. And so, yeah, this is looking like a cover up. Okay. This is starting to look more and more like a cover up, at least from the Cassidy Hutchinson angle. And one of the things that she has claimed, by the way, is that her former lawyer, because she's actually changed lawyers here within this process, but her former lawyer, who was a Trump supporter, was attempting to get her to sort of omit little details to make it so that maybe Trump didn't look quite so bad, so on and so forth. At least that's her claim that she said. Well, this article came out also from Just the News. I love Just the News. They're going after these people. Apparently there's some texts that are running around that the texts as a part of a lawsuit by her former lawyer against an MSNBC commentator are actually showing that Cassidy Hutchinson initially desired to resist the committee's investigations and called the proceedings BS, and that it also is undercutting her claim that the ex-lawyer pressured her to protect Trump. So here, a lawsuit filed by Cassidy Hutchinson's former lawyer shows that she initially did not want to comply with the January 6th committee's investigation and appeared to prepare to leak information about the committee's proceedings to the media independently of her lawyer. These texts date to shortly before her first closed-door interview with the special committee investigating the January 6th riot, and long before she amended her account of events, which I just told you about, after jettisoning her first lawyer, who she alleged had pressured her to stay loyal to President Trump. The texts were appended, meaning they were added to, as evidence to the lawyer's Stefan Pasantino, his lawsuit against Andrew Weissman, who was the NBC legal analyst, former prosecutor, and deputy to special counsel Robert Mueller, alleging that he publicly impugned Pasantino's reputation, claiming that Mr. Pasantino coached his client Cassidy Hutchinson to lie in congressional testimony. And the lawsuit reads that this is an insidious lie. Mr. Pasantino never coached Ms. Hutchinson to lie, nor did he attempt to shape her testimony in any way. This is going to be interesting. They are literally turning on themselves, folks. We may not even have to worry about anything. They're turning on themselves. But this stuff like this is what makes it to where the actual truth will eventually come out because of it, because of what's going on. And so I love seeing stuff like this. I love seeing crap like this happening over and over and over again. Let it keep coming, because I'm telling you, even in like the Hunter Biden things, you know how I was telling you last episode about Hunter Biden going on the offensive. Him going on the offensive opens him up, especially if the case actually gets to the point where it gets to the part where discovery occurs. It actually opens him up to a bunch of crap. So this is going to be interesting to watch realistically down the road and that kind of thing. Also, another thing that has been a common theme of the left is to talk about how Trump incited the riots. Now, Trump has been claiming that because of the fact that he was president at the time, that he maintains a little bit of immunity when it comes to this because he was president. And that kind of thinking actually harkens back to Nixon and Nixon's immunity when it was dealing with the Watergate scandal and stuff. Well, now we have this, which I'm kind of in a mix feelings about what this does. So a federal court apparently has ruled now that Trump is not immune from any of the January 6th lawsuits. And by that, it's not lawsuits, meaning it's not like criminal actions. It's lawsuits that are being brought by some of the representatives and some of our Congress people, basically, in the most part, who have suffered damages, suffered emotional stress, any other thing that you could even possibly think of as to why these people would sue. But they're essentially all naming Trump as the reason. So now what's happening is this: it was originally put forth. Trump went and appealed it to to a federal court, and the federal court has basically given a ruling. The judge in the case has basically given a ruling that because Trump was not acting as president at the time, that he was acting as a candidate, that yes, he can be sued if he is found to be the cause of whatever these lawsuits are claiming. Now, here's the key, though. Because this is going to be happening in civil court, okay, there's a difference between criminal court and civil court. Criminal court finds whether you're guilty or innocent. Civil court basically finds whether or not you are liable for somebody else's stuff. The preponderance of the evidence is the standard rather than beyond a reasonable doubt. But the preponderance of the evidence is what has to carry forward. This is what happened with that whole, sexual assault thing with the whatever her name was, and where the jury couldn't find him or couldn't find him liable of rape because they couldn't actually, there wasn't enough evidence to show that he had actually raped her. I think Jean Carroll or whatever her name is. Anyway, I've already forgotten her because she's that unmemorable. But anyway, the point here, though, is that the federal court is now saying that he is not immune from the January 6th lawsuits. Now, here's the thing, though. They are going to have to show by a preponderance of the evidence that Trump is actually the one who incited the riot, who was the instigation, the cause. And I honestly think this could go actually good or bad. This could break good for Trump if he's found that he is not the cause and not liable for any of this stuff. Or it could break bad for him and cause him to end up where it could carry over into the actual criminal trial that Jack Smith is bringing as to whether or not he actually incited the riot and incited the quote unquote insurrection, which isn't an insurrection. But anyway, so I'm kind of in a mixed scenario. I'm going to have to kind of see where this goes as to whether or not this breaks for him or doesn't break for him. But what's interesting too, though, is that Trump is actually kind of hitting back, especially in the whole Jack Smith January 6th thing, because of the fact that he is now seeking some classified documents to allow him to cross-examine witnesses in this. And this is from the Epoch Times. Trump seeks classified documents to cross-examine witnesses. The former president seeks to obtain materials related to foreign state and non-state entities that attempted to influence the U.S. electorate. Now, this statement that was put out, is really, really interesting and was, of course, glommed onto by all of the lunatic left, because what they were saying, well, I thought that there was no foreign election interference. And, there wasn't any Russian interference in elections, kind of hearkening back to the 2016, quotes. But what these people don't seem to understand is that all the time, every single election that we have here in America, we always have outside interferers attempting to modify and influence our elections. It's always there. It never goes away. So this whole thing as to whether or not, there was Russian interference, there was Chinese interference, or in this particular case, where it even goes all the way to, let's see, where is it? I think they had Hezbollah listed in here. Yes. So they cited a director of national intelligence, a DNI report known as the Intelligence Community Assessment that said Russia, Cuba, and Lebanon's Hezbollah attempted to interfere, and that Trump was actually working to stop it. So this was one of the court filings that was out here. Yeah, again, these trials, I'm telling you, there's going to be a lot of stuff that's going to come to light that I don't think either side realistically is going to want. But hey, you know what? You guys went down that road. This is new rules, old rules out, new rules in. This is the new rules and how things are going. And so, yeah, this is going to be quite interesting as these trials keep coming. And of course, the whole point of these trials, folks, was an attempt to keep people from voting for Trump. And they literally backfired. Okay, they literally backfired because of the fact that we've got a bunch of stupid idiots who are the liberal left, and they are trying to get Trump as much as they can. And I'm telling you, there's a reason why he is called Teflon Don, okay? Nothing sticks because he has a unstickable coating to him. And whether you like it or not, the guy is just able to avoid, whatever minefields happen to come up. Unlike Joe Biden and unlike Hunter Biden, who was, high on whatever when he went and dropped his laptop off at a repair store. And that laptop, of course, has been the center focus. That was the October surprise in 2020 that was immediately covered up by the mainstream media and, those and the spin campaign of all the intelligence operators. I'm being yelled at here by my unofficial executive producer saying it's called innocence. Yeah, I would agree with you. So I would agree with you, Outlaw Dogs. Yeah, and of course, Naraz says they know he will win. Yeah, he is certainly looking like it, and he's only gaining steam. He's kind of like a hurricane that's far out to sea right now. He's gaining steam and gaining power, and by the time he hits land in 2024, we might be seeing a complete leveling destruction in his wake. But I mean, I don't know. We've been promised a lot in the past, so we'll have to see what happens. But anyway, to get back to what I was saying. So you have, the Hunter Biden laptop and the information on it. I personally have gone through and outlined on this show. I've outlined on X in particular, maybe even in some of my social media accounts, how this laptop has got accurate information and That's essentially, no, you're right. You're right, Tommy, over on Facebook. Don't say red wave. We got to hold firm and do our part as best we can. Folks, I mean, I'm not, it's just, sorry, digression here. I am not going to tell you to not vote. I'm not going to tell you that we're going to win. We have no other choice. We need to understand that 2024 is pivotal to the existence of America as we know it. You cannot give up. You cannot just say, I'm not going to worry about it because, polling data says blah. No. You can't. I'm telling you, cutesy time is over. We have got to battle for every single inch that we can get. There is no reason to sit this one out anymore. You could have sat out, in a couple of other, between now and then, but not this one. Especially not this one and the subsequent ones that are going on. If you ever want America to actually become the bastion of freedom that it was intended to be, it needs to happen. We need to we're done. We cannot have anybody sit out. Can't have anybody sit out anymore. You've got to get, the people out to the polls. We've got to do this. Okay, sorry, I digressed. But anyway, what has essentially happened with this whole laptop thing is it actually has demonstrated how stupid some people within our government actually are. Some of our quote-unquote representatives. Well, check this guy out. This guy is just a complete freaking moron. I'm sorry. Representative Dan Goldman is saying that the Hunter Biden laptop is not genuine. Now, I'm going to tell you this right now. Independent media outlets, even leftist independent media outlets, have verified that this thing is genuine, that it is Hunter's. Hunter is actually suing the shop that had it because he admits it's his and that the information that was contained on it was leaked by the shop illegally. Illegally. That's why he's suing the shop. It's like, what part of this, you freaking moron, do you not understand? Not only that, but in November of 2019, as testified to by Shapley, the IRS agent. I've told you this on this program before. In November of 2019, the FBI validated that not only was it Hunter's laptop, but their forensic analysts also said that the data contained within showed no signs of tampering. These people, I'm telling you, we are dealing with like a massive loss of brain cells. I have no idea what the heck happened. They all drank from the same freaking, well or something. I don't know. They just all of a sudden lost their brains. I just can't believe how stupid these people are. And I'm still getting hit, by the way, on X for people saying the laptop isn't genuine. Even though, like I said, leftist media outlets, the God propaganda of the left that they use over and over and over again have all verified the information is true. Oh, gosh, I just cannot understand how this guy can actually, and hey, you know what? What's really funny is that even John Fetterman, who he's starting to make sense now. He's been talking about, he talked about Israel, and he had that moment where he was supporting Israel and what did he do? He was in public in front of some Palestinian protesters, and he said something about Israel in front of them as they're getting arrested. And then he also came out too here recently and was talking about how going after George Santos was really stupid. And that, they needed to go after some other people like Bob Menendez. Oh my God. Things are wacky. I'm telling you, things are totally out of whack today, in today's deal. It's just, oh my gosh. Yeah. So Picaric over on Rumble says, wasn't there child porn that legally could have been reported on this laptop too? I actually think that's what started it. Somebody made a comment to me on X. They were like, well, what would be the purpose of the shopkeeper going and sending it to the FBI? Again, not that I'm saying this happened, but the most likely scenario after the data was recovered onto the new hard drive, he went in and opened up a few of the files to ensure that they weren't corrupted, found something like potentially the child porn, and decided to report it to the FBI. We honestly don't know why he reported it to the FBI at first, but at least there isn't a confirmed thing with that. But anyway, so yeah, this is. I just can't believe Dan Goldman is just this stupid. I mean, I just can't. I can't see it. I really can't. Well, actually, maybe I can. All right. So let me. Yeah, this is going to be wild, folks. This is going to be wild. Really seriously wild over this. Oh, and that's another argument. Yes, you're right, Naraz. There is some suggestion that Rudy, who is a technical genius, actually planted the evidence. At least that's what the left says. Even though the FBI said there was no forensic evidence to indicate that any of the data was manipulated in any way. And also, by the way, there's no clear line of dates as to when Rudy got a copy versus the FBI getting the copy. Because the laptop was dropped off in April of 2019, and the FBI confirmed it in November of 2019. So there's a few months in between there that, yeah, a lot of stuff could happen, and the shopkeeper actually hasn't publicly, laid out the timeline as to what's going on. So we're not even sure, as I pointed out to some people, there's a very good possibility that the FBI and Rudy both got copies at the same time, and this is probably the more likely scenario because there were initial reports where the shopkeeper said that he had passed it on to the FBI, got no response from the FBI after they had it for a little bit, and then he went and handed it over to Rudy. Now, Rudy didn't actually bring it out until October of 2020, so that kind of indicates that there is a good possibility that Rudy didn't get it at the same time the FBI. Oh yeah, and here we go. So I'm not the only one. So apparently the shopkeeper, according to Outlaw Dogs, was on Fox and said he passed it to Rudy because the FBI did nothing. And that's what I thought the story was too. Now I'm not entirely sure that we can necessarily confirm that, but that's what he publicly said on Fox apparently. So yeah, so this, I mean, and I've said that to some of the lunatic left on X. I've kind of mentioned that, and of course they it's kind of funny how they keep saying that I'm not telling the truth, but yet I'm giving out facts and evidence and publicly available information that they can check on and validate and try to tell me that I'm wrong. And they never seem to do. They never seem to do that. So speaking of X and some of the leftist lunatics, of course, every single time that I come out, or that the Biden administration keeps talking about how wonderful our economy is, and this is my little economy segment. I got to keep beating up this guy on the economy because he is just so far off in leftist and lunatic fields, and I keep showing facts and evidence such as, the 18% inflation that we've got running on right now, thanks to Joe Biden's, 3 years in office, and the gas prices not being lower than all 4 years of Trump being in office, because of course they keep talking about Trump. You can't count COVID. Well, you're right. I don't count COVID. I count all 4 years of Trump being lower than what our current average gas price is. And they continually try to hit me up and up and up about all these wonderful things. Well, I just want to point out a few things. There are some indicators. There are some things, and I'm going to show you a few articles here in just a second, a few news outlets here in just a second. A couple of them are leftist outlets, by the way. I try to bring in leftist outlets so that, I'm not accused of being right-wing, although I did get accused of that too. Like I said on the last show, the previous episode, is this always a right-wing show? It's like, no, it's the truth. That's what's happening, it's the truth. But the thing about it is that a lot of people really don't understand is there's a lot of other indicators out there other than the jobs and the GDP. The GDP can be manipulated by how much spending is being done in the government, which is exactly what's happening. Now, you can't account for all of the GDP to be that way. GDP is accumulation of government spending as well as private sector spending. But that's what leftists keep pointing to. Is they keep pointing to the jobs report and the low unemployment, and they keep pointing to the GDP numbers. And the low unemployment is kind of tricky to deal with. The GDP numbers are kind of tricky to deal with, and they're being manipulated by this government in order to make people, the low IQ, low information voters, believe that things are really going great. I've got a couple of things here for you for that in just a second. But first, I want to tell you, if you enjoy this program and you'd like to show your support for the program, head on over to my Whiskey Musings logo gear store. It's store.whiskeymusings.online. That's store.whiskeymusings.online. And you can go and check this out. I've got all kinds of products. I've got sweatshirts, aprons, mugs. They've got both my logo as well as my tagline, which is "When I drink, I think." And hey, check this out. Up until Christmas, between now and Christmas, which you should get your order in soon if you're planning on getting the product by Christmas, you really should. They've improved the speed at which these things get sent, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it won't get stopped in transit or blocked up in transit. But here's what you should do if you want to get 15% off your entire order. At the end, when you go to your checkout, there is a promo code box. Put in the promo code Christmas, all capital letters. That's Christmas, all capital letters, in the promo code to get 15% off your entire order between now and Christmas. And that is my gift to all of my whiskey warriors who want to go and support the show. Check out some of these items. I've got glasses. I've got mugs. I've got water bottles. There's T-shirts. There's tank tops. There's sweatshirts. There's, like I was saying, aprons. There's all kinds of wonderful things in the store here. You just got to peruse. And hey, if you're an active man or woman, you can check out some of the activewear too. I've got, for the ladies, I have some sports bras and yoga pants. For the men and ladies too, I've got some wonderful sweat jogger style pants. But go to store.whiskeymusings.online. That's store.whiskeymusings.online today. And don't forget, when you go to checkout, to put in promo code Christmas to get 15% off your entire order between now and Christmas. That's store.whiskeymusings.online. Go and check it out today. And of course, support the show in the process. Okay. So back to what I was talking about. So one of the things that has been occurring is, the Biden administration keeps talking about how the inflation rate is going down, and it's running right now roughly around 3.2, 3.5%. In fact, he even his intern, I should say, because there's no way that Biden is posting this crap. But his intern posted that between September and October, there was zero inflation. Now, that is complete bullshit, okay? Zero inflation is impossible. We are not even close to zero inflation, okay? What that 0% inflation actually means is that it was unchanged from September to October, meaning that September was 3.2. October is 3.2. Prices are still going up, folks, and they're going up a little slower than they were a few years ago. But as I said, the 3 years combined so far up until from January of 2021 up until November of 2023, our cumulative inflation has been 18%. Okay? So these guys are frankly lying completely off their socks. Well, one of the things that is there's two things that can affect inflation. One is you stop government spending, you stop printing government money. That allows the money supply to dry up, and it allows for inflation to start going down. The other thing that you can do, which Ronald Reagan did, is you can increase interest rates. And the last couple of quarters, the Fed hasn't really made a lot of changes. And there's been some speculation within the finance world as to whether or not the Fed is actually going to cut rates right now. Well, we kind of have our answer that whether or not they're going to do it, at least sort of kind of wishy-washy, not really. Yahoo Finance had this. The Fed Chairman Powell says that a rate cut speculation is premature, that rate hikes are still possible. Now, if inflation was really getting better, okay, the Fed wouldn't be looking at possibly doing rate hikes. They would be saying, you know what, we're probably not going to. And they would say that the speculation would be okay. The key here to remember is that our target inflation is right around 2%. Now, Trump was below, most of Trump's years in office, it was slightly below 2%. But right now, in fact, here, core PCE inflation, according to the graphic that I paused on the video, it's at 3.5 as of October 2023. So, yeah, 3.2, 3.5. So the point here, though, folks, is that the Fed hasn't said that they are going to cut rates. If the Fed tells you that, hey, we have a possibility that we're going to cut rates, okay, maybe inflation is cooling. But right now they're saying, nah, rate hikes are still possible. So our economy is not doing as great as what the left and the lunatic left, and especially the White House, wants to tell you. Now, there's one other thing as well that is giving me an indication that these people just really and truly, especially these morons over on X, really and truly don't understand things, because leftist outlet Bloomberg, because one of the things that Biden's been saying, and a lot of the left, especially Elizabeth Warren, has been talking about, is price gouging. And so the left, when you see one of them, I'm telling you, these guys have like a hive mind. When you see one of them tweet it or exit, whatever you want to call it, all of them do. And I've seen this more and more. They all talk about price gouging, price gouging, price gouging. Well, apparently they are not convincing their own leftist propaganda outlets, because this came out. This is from Breitbart, who caught it, but Bloomberg anchors laugh at Biden's price gouging inflation gaslighting. So his claim, President Biden claims that businesses should be cutting prices because inflation has declined, and his accusation is that not cutting prices amounts to price gouging. Now, the anchors of Bloomberg TV's surveillance program, they actually laughed at this. And they're normally straight-laced. They're normally straight-laced about this, but apparently they were talking about the whole price gouging, and of course, you know, on X, when you get a community note, that's really, really cool. Because, and I love community notes when they do this properly, but whoever's running Biden's X account gets community noted a lot. But to understand that they're not price gouging, they're not even close. I've tried to explain this to people on X. It's called cost of goods and services. Okay. And inflation affects everything. And I threw out a challenge today. I finally got tired of it. People were talking about, some of the leftist lunatics were jumping on me and saying, yeah, it was price gouging. And I looked at them and I said, okay, show me a P&L. Show me a profit and loss statement. All of this price gouging that you're talking about, prove it. Show it to me. And of course, the typical response from some of these people is like, well, I don't have to prove anything. You prove it. Like, no, I don't have to prove anything. I'm asking you to show me the data. And then I had some jerkwad. Yeah, I'll call him a jerkwad. Some jerkwad that came in and was like, well, I work for Kellogg's and Kellogg's is price gouging. I guarantee it. And I said, well, show me their P&L. Put it out here. Put it out if you're going to do it, hell, let's go ahead. Put it out in public sphere. Show people that these folks are actually price gouging. And I guarantee you, people will shift their dollars if they find out that these companies are price gouging. And then, of course, the other typical response is a link to an article that was talking about egg pricing. The entire egg industry apparently is now being sued for inflating prices back in like 2000 to 2005. I'm like, yeah, no, that is, you got to look at today's kind of thing. I understand that, yeah, that could indicate that there could be a problem, but no, that was in the past. And so these people, I'm telling you, I'm just going to keep hitting them. As soon as somebody says price gouging, I'm going to say, prove it. Show me a profit and loss statement. Show me the evidence that you can tell me that business's cost is actually really, really low and their prices are really, really high. And then, of course, the other typical response that I get from these people is, well, look at their record profits. Apparently none of these people actually went to economics and really understand that there is a lot that goes into a profit margin. There is a whole slew of things that could have gone in to a profit. For an example, maybe they cut payroll. Maybe they got rid of people and that improved their bottom line. That's what these businesses do in order to try and make profit. In fact, speaking of cutting and trying to make profit, check this out. U.S. Steel, this is according to Fox Business, U.S. Steel announces plans to lay off hundreds at a Southern Illinois mill. I think I got that right. Did I pronounce that correctly for all of you people who are critical of me and my Illinois? Illinois. But they are announcing plans to lay off hundreds at a Southern Illinois mill. Now tell me that our economy is going great when you have a large corporation like this that is announcing plans to lay off hundreds of people. Just tell me that the economy is going great. Just tell me that the economy is going great. You can't, because it's not. This is they're announcing some layoffs at Granite City Works in Illinois. They are issuing layoff warnings, or they issued layoff warnings to 1,000 employees at the mill this week, saying they expect to fire 60% due to an indefinite idling of iron and steel making operations at the facility. In other words, folks, what that means is they're not selling any steel. People aren't buying it, so they can't manufacture it regularly anymore. They're gonna have to cut things back. That's how they stay in business. You know, I just get so frustrated. I really, really do. These people are just so damn stupid that they just don't seem to understand how basic economics actually freaking works. And they don't bother to educate themselves on, this is simple economics. This is Econ 101 here, people. Costs of goods and services. You want to make more money, you got to cut your cost. If you cut your cost, depending upon where you're doing it, you may end up impacting production. This is not rocket science. It's really not that hard to understand, but apparently these people, well, we're now living in a world, I'm serious, we're now living in a world where these idiots are just complete morons. Our public school system has failed them completely. Oh, and by the way, this wonderful thing that everybody's been talking about in terms of gas prices coming down. You remember last episode, I talked about how how Biden is actually ignoring the sanctions on Iran and allowing Iran to sell oil in order to keep the price down. Well, this came out, and this is CNBC that's saying this. Oil prices could reach $100 a barrel in 2024 if OPEC Plus members fulfill pledges for voluntary cuts. Folks, this is laws of supply and demand, okay? Laws of supply and demand. They want to make more per barrel, so they're going to cut back supply. And Biden, if you recall, went running off to OPEC to beg for us to essentially gain more oil. So here, key points out of this article just at the top: oil prices are expected to rise in the new year after some OPEC plus oil producers voluntarily pledged to cut output. The oil cartel on Thursday released a statement that did not formally endorse production cuts, but individual countries announced voluntary reductions totaling 2.2 million barrels per day for the first quarter of 2024. Now, don't recall, for at least those who are smooth-brained, don't remember things back far enough, but Biden has actually drained our oil reserves in an attempt to keep the oil prices low or lower than what they were, even though it was a drop in the bucket because, I mean, our oil reserves can't frickin' keep up with our demand. We do, I've told you on this program, we do something like 20 million barrels of oil a day, and they only are able to pull 1 million barrels of oil from the Strategic Petroleum Reserve per day. But now our SPR is down at its lowest point since like 1980 and 80-ish. And so now Biden's going to have to find a way to fill it back up eventually, or Trump will when Trump gets back into office. But this is the point as to why we went from energy independence, which we should have stayed at, into essentially nothingness. I mean, this is ridiculous, completely ridiculous. And that's what's happening here, is that OPEC has got us over a freaking barrel. By the way, pun intended on that one, for sure. These leftists do not understand how the world works. Speaking of government and its propensity for doing things like giving out loans and everything else, a couple of really quick ones before I get to the question of the week. But check this out. The Supreme Court is hearing a case with regards to the Securities and Exchange Commission's powers to conduct in-house adjudications without juries in a case right now that could actually disrupt things that are going on. Now, one of the problems that we have here in America is that we have allowed the bureaucrats and the bureaucracy to bypass the Constitution. If you recall, anyone who has read the Constitution and understands the Constitution knows that laws are created in Congress. That is the legislative body. They are the ones that create the laws. any of these bureaucracies that have been created under the executive branch are only supposed to execute on the laws that are created by Congress. That's what the executive branch does. Well, what we have been seeing, especially starting under the Obama era, is the fact that the bureaucracies have been legislating from their offices rather than just enforcing the laws that have been created by Congress. And so, I mean, you saw that with the whole OSHA mandate. You know, Biden was trying to get OSHA to force people to take the vaccine in order to, up vaccine or vaccinations across the country. And he was shot down by the courts. Well, it looks like the courts might be getting ready to shoot down the whole thought process that the Securities and Exchange Commission, or SEC, can actually do this as well. During the time that they were questioning during the case being presented, they were questioning how the bureaucrats and the bureaucracy of the SEC can actually do this with a trial when Americans are afforded by their constitutional rights a trial by jury in front of their peers, and how this bureaucracy can actually do this without having any kind of judicial powers, because they don't have judicial powers. So the judicial powers is under the judicial branches. In other words, the court system. And so they were questioning this. And so this is going to be interesting. And it's not, again, you kind of get the feeling whenever you see one of these things, you can get the feeling from the justices in terms of what the chances, what the outcome might be. And so, yeah, these guys are sort of questioning whether or not this is going to happen. And is during here from the Washington Examiner piece, during oral arguments Wednesday, Chief Justice John Roberts said it was curious that federal agencies such as the SEC appeared to exert more leverage on daily life now than in the past, a position that a majority of the court appeared to agree with in some sort of capacity. Now, if you get the majority of the court, not just like one or two justices, but the majority of the court, that's not a good sign for you. It really is not a good sign for you. And he continued on with saying the government is much more likely to affect you or proceed against you in one of its own agencies than it is in court. It does seem to me to be curious that unlike most constitutional rights, that you have a right to a jury trial until the government decides it doesn't want you to have it. That doesn't seem to me the way the Constitution traditionally works. So this is, I don't think this is going to set a precedent that I don't think the government is really looking forward to having happen. So I'm going to try and keep an eye on that as we move forward. All right. So let me go ahead. We've only got a few minutes left here, and I definitely want to bring this up because this is really extremely interesting for me anyway. Hopefully it is for you. But let's go ahead and do tonight's question for Whiskey. All right, so this question comes from Buddy Weiser over on Rumble. Buddy writes, "Good day, sir. I hope this finds you well." Well, thank you. It did. Hopefully you are well as well. This is my request. Please tell of the Mayflower Compact and the authors of the agreement. Was it a singular writing, and was there multiple versions? Thanks, Buddy Weiser. All right, buddy. So here we go. We're going to dive into the historical archives of America. And for those of you that don't recall, but the Mayflower was the initial ship that brought the Pilgrims over here in 1620. And they were this was the kind of the first foray per se into America after, the first concerted foray, let's say, into America. And one of the things that happened before these folks left is they actually signed something. It's a different terminology than what we would use, but they signed a thing called a patent. And the patent was essentially their legal document that said that, yes, you folks can go and settle in the Virginia area, what they were continuing or what they were considering the Virginia territory or the Virginia colony. Now, for those of you that don't know, the Virginia colony actually encompassed a lot bigger state than what it does today. It actually spread up to, I think it was the state of New York, like the southern part of New York. And that's because of the fact that what the Pilgrims were intending to do was they were intending to settle in the Hudson River Valley. Okay. And for those of you that don't know, the Hudson River is where the city of New York straddles. Okay. It's actually I think it's splits New Jersey and the state of New Jersey and the state of New York as of right now. But anyway, as they went across, okay, so the Mayflower, of course, was made up of Pilgrims, but it was also made up of a bunch of merchants and some people that the Pilgrims referred to as outsiders. And these people were essentially going over there just to, try and, of course, make money. I mean, that was their whole purpose, was to make money. The Pilgrims were trying to avoid religious persecution, and the other ones were trying to make money. Well, anyway, when they came across here, they ended up landing outside of Cape Cod, which was outside of Virginia's jurisdiction. And so what ended up happening, and Rush Limbaugh talks about some of this in his Thanksgiving, discussion. Great video. If you get a chance to watch it, you should, and if you can download it, you should, because it's just fantastic. But anyway, the thing about it is they landed outside of where they were supposed to. Now, they tried to get to the Hudson River, but weather and some bad shoals, and they tried to land and they couldn't do it. So they went back to where they initially landed in Massachusetts near Cape Cod. Now, the problem was, though, that the outsiders, or those people who weren't the Pilgrims, they essentially said, well, since we're not in Virginia, none of our patents and none of the laws and the legal paperwork that we have is binding. And so we're just going to go our own way, and we're just going to do our own thing, which, of course, was not ideal in those kinds of situations because, of course, it takes a village. And so what ended up happening is they decided to write what is now known as the Mayflower Compact on the Mayflower before they went and settled the land. Now, there's no real attribution to who wrote the Mayflower Compact. It was sort of one of those things where a bunch of people sort of got together and they kind of discussed it and they all sort of contributed to it. But there is one gentleman, and I'm trying to think of who. Let me see. It was well-educated separatist and pastor William Brewster is usually given credit for writing the Mayflower Compact. Okay. Now, 41 male colonists, including 2 indentured servants, they signed the Mayflower Compact. Now, the Mayflower Compact was essentially trying to put up or get together some sort of a legal binding document that would help create a civil society within the New World. And it essentially, the original document, by the way, was lost, but it was written about in, what was his name? Miles Standish wrote about it. And William Bradford's journal was also of his journal where he says of Plymouth Plantation was also had a copy or had a copy of it. So the purpose of it, of course, was to try and set up the it's some sort of a government here. And so oftentimes, and especially in our early days and early founding, the founders actually referred to the Mayflower Compact along with like the Magna Carta and some of the other ones in order to, some of the other early documents in order to help set up our government here. Now, if you watched Rush and listened to Rush, you'll know that the original Mayflower Compact had the colonists basically sharing all of the fruits of their labors amongst each other, which is very reminiscent of socialism, and it turned out to not do a good job. And so William Bradford actually said, okay, we're done with that, and he turned the colony into more of a capitalist type system, which made it to where the colony actually flourished in the point of that. So was it a singular writing? Yes, there wasn't any like multiple copies that were created, and also there weren't multiple versions. It was pretty much what they penned and what they wrote. That's pretty much it. And it really is not that long either. I mean, it's really not that big. You can find copies of it online and read it. But the reality of it is that it was kind of hastily put together on the Mayflower in 1621 before the colony really got going. And it was designed to try and loosely put together some sort of a government or governmental guidance so that they didn't lose what would be considered civilization for that. So anyway, you can check out some more things about it. You can kind of dig into it. But, you know, when I was taught the Mayflower Compact, I thought it was written before they left England, but it actually wasn't. It was written while they were on the Mayflower before they actually settled in the area. And it was due to the fact that they didn't have legal standing to settle in Massachusetts because the king had given them permission to go to the Virginia colony, which was much farther south. Realistically. So anyway, hopefully that answered your question. I love American history, so that's fantastic. I think it was a fascinating question, and I do appreciate it. Do me a favor, if you want to submit a question for Whiskey, go to fans, F-A-N-S, that's fans at whiskeymusings.online. That's fans, F-A-N-S, at whiskeymusings.online, and you can submit your question for Questions of the Week. That is a segment that I do on Saturdays. For Wednesday, you can submit a pet for Pet of the Week at that same email address. And as far as I know right now, I don't have a Pet of the Week. So if you want one, go ahead and put that in as soon as you can. Okay, that is my final Whiskey Musings thought of the evening. Do me a favor, if you like the program, please head on over to rumble.com, sign up for an account. It's free. And find and follow the Whiskey Musings Broadcast channel over on Rumble. I transmit on Saturdays at 6 p.m. to 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, and on Wednesdays at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. We'll see you guys on Wednesday. Hope you have a fantastic rest of your weekend and a good part of your first week. And that's pretty much it. Good night, everybody.
The Whiskey Musings broadcast is produced by Active Eye Media, LLC. All rights reserved.